Hello again, everyone. Edwin Leonard back once again in this YouTube astrological segment. I'm going to be talking about astrology and the injury to J.J. Watt. Now, J.J. Watt, those of you that don't know, he's a defensive end for the Arizona Cardinals, an NFL football team. He's considered one of the more dominant players in the NFL, and especially if you're going by defense, he's one of the better defensive players in the league. He seems to have some propensity for injury, though, and he's been out a number of times due to injury. Now, my understanding is he's going to likely be out for the duration of the season due to shoulder surgery. So he is a soldier with the sun in Aries, perhaps a warrior, but what I want to talk about, mainly some transits and natal placements that may be tied in with this. Now, the first thing I want to talk about, though, notice it's interesting in this chart that he was born on a full moon. Sun in Aries at 1 degree. The moon is in Libra at 1 degree. It's a very tight opposition, and you have this energy that's very diametrically opposed. And what it tells me is, with the Sun in Aries, Sun in Aries can be a little bit egocentric. Sun is also about domination, and I'm sure J.J. Watt has a side that wants to. The Sun is about what we want. What we want to do, with the Sun in Aries, wanting to be a leader and wanting things more that are connected with the self to some degree. However, with the Moon in Libra, which is opposing that, it shows the needs are connected with collaborating with others and doing things more for others, where others will take precedence over himself. So he has a little bit of he may go back and forth a little and vacillate, because the Sun in Aries is more about, really about your own needs taking precedence, your own wants. But I think, when I look at this, it's interesting, because he has that opposition, and then he has the square. He has basically what it is. It's a cardinal T-square, and he has Uranus in Capricorn in the 12th house, making the opposite. Making the square to the 2 points in the opposition. The Uranus in Capricorn in the 12th house is the focal point of the T-square configuration, and that's the point, what is considered the point of overemphasis, over accentuation, or it's the point where one often reconciles what's the conflict that exists within the opposition. What this tells me is, okay, the fact that the Sun in Aries is more about the person in question, about things for the self, where the Moon in Aries can be more of the emotional need to do things more for others. And the fact is, with the Uranus and Capricorn in the 12th house being that focal point, that point where you try to reconcile the energy of the opposition in the T-square configuration, that tells me perhaps finding an unusual career is where he's able to satisfy the energy of the opposition, being in the 12th house, a career that might have been one he might have dreamed and fantasized about as well, in this case doing so with sports. And this is a chance, for him, what tells me is having the Sun in Aries, it's an opportunity, for him, where he can be, he can do something that gives himself a lot of satisfaction. And he does put up certain prodigious numbers, and his number of years where he's right up there in sacks. But having the Moon in Aries, Moon in Libra, it's also an opportunity where he is able to collaborate with others and do things for the team as well, where the others' needs can take precedence over his own doing things for others, and he's able to satisfy both through that career. The Uranus being in Capricorn, again, an unusual career, being in the 12th house, maybe perhaps one that he might have dreamt or fantasized about it. He made it manifest into reality. So that is, he does have, it appears to be, Neptune does conjunct his Saturn in the 12th house, and that's perhaps maybe how he was able to manifest having a career that he maybe something he fantasized about become more of a reality. Now, And the Capricorn ascendant, of course, with him, it's interesting because that's so different than, the Sun in Aries, the true self. The Sun in Aries. The basic is the Sun in astrology, of course, is the basic character, the conscious basic character, and it's really with him that that could be a basic character that's a little bit impulsive, impetuous, very aggressive and assertive, and and the thing is, when you have the Capricorn ascendant, what he's projecting outwardly is a much more prudent and disciplined, premeditative, nature, which will often think things thoroughly before acting upon them. So he's very, even though it doesn't make a square aspect, his sun and his ascendant, but it's still, the energy is so strongly different. But anyway, I just wanted to, I wanted to talk a little bit about what I saw in his natal chart. It's not, that wasn't related to his the injury, but now I'm going to get into transits and natal placements that are associated with the injury, what I believe are connected with it. Now, first thing is that he does have transit Pluto in his first house. Almost, really, you could say a loose conjunction to the Capricorn ascendant. Pluto can be about surgery, and of course the first house is the physical body. It wouldn't surprise me with all this. He's got such a dominant Capricorn energy in his chart. Now I know he's got 3 planets in Capricorn that are all, generational planets: Uranus, Neptune, and Saturn in the 12th house. But it's still Capricorn energy, and having a Capricorn ascendant, he has it at 22 degrees. They call the 22nd degree is often referred to as the kill or be killed degree. I'm sure he's had certain issues with knees, bones, joints, even hamstrings. I don't know if he's had any issues with the gallbladder. That might be something later in life he might be dealing with. But anyway, and also too, he has transit Neptune is in a loose conjunction to his natal Mercury, and Mercury is associated with the shoulders. The planet does govern the shoulders. Neptune is about weakness, it's about dissolving, dissipation, and he has Mercury in Pisces. So perhaps what could have happened was that there were any, initially, maybe the issue with the shoulders may have been somewhat nebulous or unclear or confounding. It was something that he wasn't able to actually, maybe the doctors were having a hard time diagnosing exactly what was wrong with his shoulder. Now, another thing I noticed too, that he has in his something in his natal chart that I say is that he has Mars in Gemini, and Mars can be about injuries, physical injuries, and Gemini is associated with the shoulders. Mars also is associated with surgery. He has Jupiter conjunct his Mars. In Jupiter, I've talked about in previous videos, it's strongly benign and benevolent, but it could also have a tendency to enlarge and expand. It can exacerbate the energy it's contacting. And very well, I'd say this could be exacerbating, propensity for surgery, injuries to the shoulder. And he also has transit North Node very close to his natal Jupiter as well, transit North Node in Gemini. We're talking about the North Node in transit. It can often reflect issues one may have to address and confront. Jupiter is also associated with sports, and he does have Jupiter in Gemini. Jupiter in Gemini by itself, though generational, can sometimes manifest in very enlarged issues with things that are Gemini related, such as the shoulders, and also including the arms, the hands, the nerves, lungs, breathing. And another thing he has too, when I look in his chart and his transits, now transit Chiron is in the 2nd house right now, and he's in his 2nd house, but at some point in the future it will be hitting his 3rd house. And Chiron can be about not just, it can be about emotional suffering, but physical suffering, wounds, and in pain as well. And the 3rd house corresponds with Gemini and the shoulders. So sometime he might even have more intensified issues, sadly, with his shoulders at some point in the future as well. So it's something to look at. for him as far as the future goes. But I just wanted to talk about some things I saw in his, natal chart, and some, transits that might have been tied in with his shoulder surgery. Hold on a moment, people. Sorry about that. I'm back. Anyway, well, another thing I noticed too, he does have transit Uranus in the third house, and that is sometimes, I mean, Uranus is about the unpredictable, the unexpected, and being in the third house that's associated with the shoulders, it's opposing his natal Pluto. And we make that opposition. Well, Pluto is about surgery, or it's also about control and what we have power over. It could be something which is an indicator that he, having little control over what was going to be happening in terms of something that was unexpected with the shoulder. I think that is one way that this may have been expressed or manifested. And I'm just seeing if there's anything else in this chart that may have indicated, might have pointed toward this shoulder surgery. But he does have transit Saturn in his first house, and it's going to be there for some time. And that could, Saturn can be about difficulties, and it could be Saturn is associated with the knees, bones, joints, hamstrings. And Saturn being in Aquarius, it might even give some difficulties at some point during this transit with the ankles, the shins, the nerves, lower leg circulation. And he also has Jupiter also in a transit, Jupiter Aquarius in his first house right now. And the fact it's intercepted, it can be, when you have intercepted transits, those transits can be more exasperating, more taxing. Transit Jupiter is in Aquarius, intercepted in his first house, and that can enlarge issues with Aquarius related physical matters, such as, again, the shins, the calves, the nerves, ankles. It can be something with the circulation. And when later on, when transit Jupiter does conjunct his natal North Node in Pisces in the first house, there may also be some issues that may have to be addressed and confronted. It could be with something Pisces or enlarged Pisces related physical injuries. It could be something with the feet or the toes. And Jupiter, keep in mind, it also rules the liver as well, the hips, the sciatic nerve. So it can be something that's Jupiter related as well that he might be encountering during the time of this transit in his first house. But anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learn, saying stay well.